Hello everybody, and I hope you are ready to learn about strings in Java and some of their basic functions. We will also talk about substrings and index of methods and how you can use these to work to your advantage when manipulating and using strings in your programs. It may all seem confusing at first, but you can rest assured knowing that it is not all that complicated, simply requiring a little practice and effort at cracking the basic. Strings are one of the two major data types processed in Java and many other coding languages, which are strings and ints, or, in colloquial human speak, words and numbers respectively. Obviously start with a class if you're a beginner, as should be done anytime writing a Java program. Here are some basic examples of strings used in Java for beginners. Here is a simple example and template of printing out strings in Java and assigning a variable a value, which is a word. You can also add strings, as crazy as that sounds. You must remember though to include a space between the words or else they will get mashed together. Now we wouldn't want that, would we, if that sounds confusing to you? You can add a space at the end of the first string or the beginning of the second one, it does not matter. Like the law of conservation of mass, Java operates under the guise that it will conserve all variables to the equation, as long as it is written in the correct order. Meaning you must be extremely literal, as computers are notoriously bad at common sense. You can do this with more than one string as well. Simply think about this as applying the same logic as the previous problem to this one, only at a greater scale. Heck, why not think about everything that way? Next we will talk about substrings, which are denoted by a prefix not meant to be taken literally. Unlike much of the logic applied to programming-related disciplines, just think about a regular string in coding like a sentence and break it into smaller chunks. You get a word and then break it down into smaller parts like each letter and a space in between and count them all in order. Indexive is another major method that impacts strings. It has many broad and specific applications that are used by programmers in programming fields. It helps you look for things in a string. Inside the parenthesis of the index of method, you type a string. Remember to put the quotation symbols around it and put all of that inside the parenthesis. The string could be thought of as analogous to a literal string, which could be strung through a sewing machine. You are the customer, requesting high-quality string from the Fabric Corporation. Do you buy the whole supply? Nah fam, you buy small chunks. Like how the substring cuts off small chunks of long sentences. While the two built-in Java methods are very similar in appearance, they serve inverse functions. Now we will review more specific applications of these methods. It is important to note that while the substring is told where it needs to put things together, the index of operation rather tells where you want something to be put. Indexive and substring are often used together, with the index of enclosed within the substring. The index of obtains an integer value of a starting or ending point, which is fed through the substring method. The most important thing is to ensure that when looking for a value in the index of method, you are looking for the first time it comes up. Which is why sometimes you will want to put a whole word in there instead of just a letter, even though the index of method only returns the index of the first character in the word. If you want to pull out a specific word or phrase, you can also do a substring with index of in the first parameter, an index of plus a string set to the word length, ensuring the whole word is captured and not just the first character. In any event, the most important thing to remember is that substring returns a string and index of returns an int of where something is. If you clearly distinguish the difference between the two of these, you should be good for working with strings. Another interesting caveat to substrings is that it is possible to only pass in one value, and this is where index-of is most applicable when working with the two methods together. If you do substring and then only put in one index of value in that substring, say the letter W in hello world, it cuts off everything before that. Just like how if you passed two values in the substring starting with 0 and the last value being the index of, it would cut off the end part of hello world. It is just cool to know the single parameter application is this widely used in Java programming and is a huge time saver. It's okay if this gets a little complicated. Sometimes simply learning something without much initial practical application can make it hard to wrap your head around. Though it should come to you soon enough with enough practice. Personally, my favorite Java compilers have been the likes of Visual Studio Code for larger projects and imports. Whereas Program.is has worked pretty well for simply internet compiling. I find the main commonality between strings and integers is that their underlying principles are the same, being rooted within simply arithmetic, but like a Venn diagram. Their exclusive spheres lie in the string's unique identity of being easily found and isolated when called upon, whereas the integers act as a homogeneous collective, easily disposable as individuals but together representing such a great mass in quantitative potential that they are truly capable of encompassing a plethora of disciplines that do in fact lie within individual identity. Like how the integers root out the strings to find the exact combination desired by the developer or something like that. Anyway, to summarize, there are a few main takeaways from this video, which is that strings have two particularly noteworthy methods. The index of method searches for letters and explains them as numbers, and substring searches for numbers and explains them as letters, or something like that.